No, this is not the millionth video on the Panther II, Tiger II 10.5, or the Coelian. I've already made my peace with those vehicles and there's really no discussion left to be made over them that hasn't already been made in the 7 years I've been playing. Today, we'll discuss a tank that existed actually and physically, but did not serve in the tech tree it is currently in. As you may already have deduced from the footage, is the Chinese T-34 1943. This tank, while very real in Soviet service, most likely did not exist in Chinese service. So let's examine the story of the Type T-34, its story, what's true, and why some would say that the tank didn't actually exist. The T-34 1943 in the Chinese tree appears to be armed with a 76mm F-34 gun. At first glance, we can make the assumption that this is War Thunder's take on the world of tanks Type T-34. The story of the Type T-34 is that it was a Chinese upgraded T-34-76 with a new engine and transmission. The T-34-76 used in the upgrade program was apparently received from the Soviet Union early in the 1950s. So, is this true? Well, not really. The T-34-76 was not upgraded by the Chinese, nor are there any documented evidences of the Soviets exporting the T-34 and the 76mm gun variant to China. This is what the Wiki of War Thunder acknowledges about the T-34 1943. However, they tack on at the end that the T-34-76 were apparently obtained by China when the Soviets pulled out of China in 1955, and that these few samples were used for training and are now exhibited in the Harbin Tank Academy. This also isn't true. The general consensus among those who researched this topic is that China never operated T-34-76s in any capacity. There is a museum piece of a T-34-76 in the Dandong Korean War Museum. However, this is either a restored North Korean T-34-76 or a captured Vietnamese example from the Sino-Vietnamese War of 1979. An interesting detail about this piece is that it was restored using some Type 59 parts. It's more likely that it was restored as a North Korean T-34-76, as North Korea was shown to continue operating the T-34-76 as recently as 2001 in a training capacity. In War Thunder, the T-34 1943 has the Chinese flag. This presents a good opportunity to insert the North Korean tree into the Chinese tree. The Shenyang F5 Premium already has the North Korean flag, and it won't be anywhere near difficult to change the T-34 1943's flag in the Chinese tech tree. It would make it more historically accurate and would introduce North Korea as a sub-tree to China, bolstering its air and ground forces to some degree. While I don't agree with Gaijin's implementation of Hungary and the Italian tree in the form of premium vehicles, I also don't agree with China receiving Soviet equipment that North Korea used, such as the Su-25K, MiG-29, and MiG-23, because that would give Gaijin an excuse to ignore China's air tree even more. Like, come on Gaijin, give us more Q5 tech tree variants, or at least the JH-7. So, if North Korea were to be implemented as part of China, it should probably only be exclusive to the ground vehicles like South Africa. Gaijin not adding South African aircraft to the British tree is a good call, since it would be crazy when down the line Britain would receive something like the Gripen, the Mirage F1CZ, and the Atlas Cheetah. I think the Royvalk and the South African tanks are pretty much good enough. So that's the story of the T-34 1943 War Thunder. It's definitely not a mid-war Lend-Lease like the Stuart or the M4A4, or a captured vehicle like the Chiha Kai. It's basing itself on the idea that it was probable that 76mm T-34s were delivered by the Soviets without actual evidences. There were more evidences pointing to the contrary, rather than supporting the idea that there were 76mm T-34s in Chinese service. The Type T-34 was already a proven hoax, and the fact that the Dandong Korean War Museum piece was a rebuilt North Korean T-34-76 with Type 59 parts is the final nail in the coffin for the case of China's 76mm T-34s. What do you think? Should T-34 1943 in the Chinese tree be the way to introduce North Korea as a sub-tree for the Chinese ground forces? What other nations do you think should have a sub-tree in War Thunder? We already received the Norwegian Leopard 1A5 recently, and I've been loving it. Does that mean we could possibly get a Finnish T-55M down the line? That would be a very interesting prospect. Tell me what you think in the comments down below. And if you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel as well. Thanks for watching. This is the Dr. MD, and as always, Godspeed.